Welcome to Knife Chats. If you like what you see, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, share it with friends, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Thank you. I've been meaning to do a video on this knife for quite some time now. It's a recent purchase for me, actually. I got it about 6 months ago, but it's a very old knife. It's the RR204 Tickler by Rough Rider, right? I think it might be also called a French Tickler. A lot of people just call it the locking toothpick. The reason I'm finally getting around to doing the video is I saw that Jersey Knife Guy just recently picked it up and he did his review of it, and so I thought I would get out there and finally get my review done on this knife as well. Now, as a person who seems to have a lot of toothpicks, you'd think I would have picked this one up right away. It's got a couple interesting things going for it. Mainly, it's a lockback. How cool is that? But also, if you notice, it doesn't quite look like a toothpick. And it's also not a standard size for a toothpick. The medium toothpicks usually are 4 inches to 4¼ inches, and the large toothpicks usually start at 5 inches. And this one is actually 4½ inches closed. It's got a main blade that's about 3⅛ inches long, so that's about the same as what you see on most medium toothpicks. But beyond that, the shape is not typical of what you see in a toothpick. And I think that's one of the things that made me think twice about picking it the first time around. Now, I recently picked it up again, mainly because they seem to have showed up at really decent prices on the aftermarket. It seems like the aftermarket on eBay just got flooded with these. I don't believe they're in stock at SMKW or not, but they're definitely out there on eBay. But is it a toothpick? Well, in my mind, it's not a true toothpick. What it really seems to be is a cross between two knives, one of them being a toothpick. So it's kind of like the bastard child of two knives. And so what we see here would have been like the parents of the Rough Rider Tickler. You got your the Laguille pattern and the medium toothpick. That's kind of the two knives that this knife kind of crosses. If you look at the frame of the Laguille and the frame of this knife, do you see how it's kind of similar? The way that the bolster at the top widens out instead of narrows and rounds off, like you see in the Laguille, versus the top of a toothpick, which narrows and is rounded off. Also, the end here, the powder horn end, is more rounded, similar to what you see in the Laguille. Also, the handle is actually a little wider than what you see in the Laguille, but you see what I'm talking about. Even though, but the blade shape is definitely more old style toothpick, with the saber grind going on and the California clip. So it's like, what would happen if these two knives were to get together in a dark alley and do something carnal and produce a new knife? Obviously, you don't have the little B up on the top there. It's gone, but it could have easily been there. But instead, they put a more traditional lockback on the back. Remember that the B here acts as a semi-lock on the blade to help keep the blade open when deployed completely. This is supposed to help lock the blade a little bit. It's not a full lock. It's kind of like a half lock, which is not nearly as good as a full back lock, which you have on the Tickler here. And I think that's why they called this the French Tickler, because it kind of looks close to what the Laguille looks like, as opposed to what your typical toothpick looks like. But with that said, there's a lot of cool things with this knife. One thing being the lockback. One of the drawbacks on it for me was I wasn't really big on the brown jig bone handle. If this would have had like the amber jigged bone handle, I would have probably picked it up a lot quicker, or if it would have been some other color, or if it would have been a white smooth bone or a pearl. Man, that would have really looked cool. But what you do have, which is really cool, is if you notice the brass bolsters on top and bottom. Typically on the medium toothpicks on Rough Rider, you just have a single thread going or a single ring. These are double ringed, so that's pretty cool. The large toothpicks from Rough Rider, do I have one here? I'm sure I do. Had a wide variety of bolsters, but typically they would have been triple ringed bolsters. But as you can see, like on the saw cut bone, they had the scalloped bolsters. Every Rough Rider knife, with the exception of the Rifleman series and the long rifle series, had different style bolsters on them. These were the only two that had the triple ring. The smaller baby toothpicks also had triple rings on the bottom, I believe, but the medium toothpicks all had a single ring. So even among the Rough Rider toothpicks, this thing is very much unique. Double ring bolsters. You've got the wide bolster at the top here that resembles more of a L'Aiguille than an actual typical toothpick that you find made in the United States. And you've got a really interesting saber ground blade here. It is a hollow grind. Just all around, it's a really interesting knife. I look at it more as a powder horn than an actual toothpick, but that's because I'm really nitpicky. For anybody else out there, I'm sure this would just be a locking toothpick. But Rough Rider called it the Tickler, and I'm glad I finally went ahead and picked one up. I'll probably pick up another one also. Build quality is pretty good for the Rough Riders of the day, back in the day. This knife was made probably 12, 13 years ago. You can see a noticeable gap between the locking back spring here and the brass liners, but otherwise the fit and finish is not bad at all. Very smooth going into the transition from the bolsters to the bone. Blade locks up pretty good. As you can see, it definitely slides to the show side here, but it's not actually hitting or anything. Opens up well, definitely locks, and no wobble in the blade, despite the gap that you see between the springs and the liners. So the blade is tight, just a little bit of a gap in the spring there. Nice closing snap, and pretty tight. You could actually grab this and flick it open, I think. Well, let me try it. I'm not going to try it on camera, but yeah, you could actually pinch this and flip it open and then drop it into your hand. So actually you can open this one-handed with a little bit of practice. Closing it one-handed would be a little trickier. It's got a very strong lock on the back there, but very nice, very cool knife. Very happy with it. Like I said, I'm glad I finally picked one up. Well, there you have it. There's my thoughts on the RR204 Tickler. Hopefully Rough Rider will go ahead and bring this one back out of the vault or wherever they threw it and make it again, because it's one of those patterns that's actually worth coming back with. And I think the popularity of it on the aftermarket, with a lot of people picking this up, is reason enough to think about reconsider making it again, perhaps with new handles. In any case, I'll let you go now. Talk to you again soon. Stick around for some slides.
Thank you for visiting Knife Chats. I hope you enjoyed your time here. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel and ringing that notification bell so that you will be notified when the next episode of Knife Chats is up online. Thanks again. See you soon.